No one at the marina expected the silence. The music stopped first, then the talking, then even the wind seemed to pause. A massive white mega yacht glided toward the dock, slow and steady, cutting through the water like it belonged there. People turned, phones came out. Wedding guests whispered to each other, confused and curious. At the front of the yacht stood a black man in a dark blue suit. He wasn't smiling, he wasn't angry either. He looked calm, like someone who had already survived his worst day. Beside him stood 3 children. 2 little girls in matching navy dresses waved excitedly. A small boy in a white captain's hat laughed and raised both hands in the air, proud like he owned the ocean. Triplets. On the dock, a woman in a wedding dress froze. Her hand flew to her chest, her eyes widened. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. This was not part of her wedding. This was not part of her life. Behind her, an older woman in a red dress tightened her grip on a glass, her face drained of color. She knew exactly who that man was. 5 years ago, she had paid him $100,000 to disappear. Back then, his world had been small. A cramped apartment, 3 crying newborns, empty bottles, long nights. He had never planned to be a single father. Life had chosen that path for him when the children's mother died shortly after giving birth. One moment, he had dreams and plans. The next, he had 3 fragile lives depending on him. He didn't complain. He didn't run. He learned how to cook with one hand while holding a baby with the other. He learned how to sleep in short pieces. He learned how to stay calm even when fear sat heavy in his chest. Money was always tight. Still, his children were clean, fed, and loved. That was when he met her. She was kind, soft-spoken, different from the world he knew. She listened when he talked. She didn't look down on him when she saw his tired eyes or worn shoes. For the first time since the loss, he felt seen. When she found out she was pregnant, she cried, not from fear, but from shock. When the doctor said it was triplets, everything changed, not for him. He was ready to step up. But her family wasn't. Her mother was polite at first. She invited him to lunch at a quiet restaurant. She smiled, asked about his work, complimented his dedication to the children. Then she stopped smiling. "This situation cannot continue," she said calmly. He didn't understand at first. He thought she meant the stress, the pressure. Then she slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a check. $100,000. "Take this," she said. "Leave, no contact, no future." His hands trembled, not from greed, from insult. "I'm not abandoning my family," he said quietly. Her eyes hardened. "You don't understand how this works," she replied. "If you stay, everyone loses." He pushed the envelope back. That was the moment his life began to collapse. Within days, problems appeared everywhere. His landlord suddenly needed the apartment. His job reduced his hours without warning. Hospital bills for the babies doubled. His bank card stopped working one morning without explanation. Every door closed at once. He tried calling her, no answer. He sent messages, no replies. The pressure became unbearable. One night, after rocking 3 crying babies to sleep, he sat on the floor and stared at the envelope. He hated himself for touching it. But his children needed food, shelter, care. He took the money. He disappeared. The woman he loved never knew the truth. She waited. She cried. She blamed herself. Her mother told her he had chosen money over love, that he was weak, that he had never cared. Years passed. The man rebuilt quietly. He didn't waste the money. He studied. He invested carefully. He failed more times than he succeeded. He worked late into the night after putting his children to bed. The triplets grew strong, curious, kind. They never asked why their father worked so hard. They just knew he was always there. And one day, everything changed again. Now back at the marina, the mega yacht rested against the dock. The man stepped forward, steady and respectful. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he said clearly. I'm here because the truth matters." The bride's eyes filled with tears. She looked from him to the children, then to her mother. Understanding crashed into her like a wave. The older woman in red couldn't look away. For the first time in her life, money had failed her. The children waved again. And in that moment, nothing could stop what was about to come next. Before the money, before the lies, his life was already heavy. Every morning started before sunrise. 3 babies cried at different times, each with a different need. One wanted milk. One needed to be held. One refused to sleep unless he walked slowly back and forth. He learned their sounds, their faces, their small habits. When one finally slept, another would wake. Some nights, he sat on the floor with all 3 in front of him, whispering softly, promising them he would never leave. Even when his body begged for rest, he stayed awake. Fear did not scare him as much as failure did. He worked wherever he could. Day shifts, night shifts, extra hours when offered. He never complained. He never explained. He just showed up. People saw him as tired, but strong. They didn't see how close he was to breaking. When he met her, it felt like air after drowning. She didn't rush him. She didn't ask him to explain his life. She accepted his children without hesitation. She would sit on the floor with them, laughing when they pulled at her hair or fell asleep on her shoulder. For the first time in years, he felt hope. He was honest with her from the beginning. About his past, his struggle, his fears. She didn't pull away. When she told him she was pregnant, his heart raced, not from panic, but responsibility. He told her they would figure it out together. Then the doctor spoke the word, triplets. Her hands shook. His mind went quiet. Still, he didn't step back. But her family did. The first warning was subtle. Her mother asked to meet him alone. She spoke kindly, almost warmly. She said she admired his dedication, that not many men would do what he had done. Then her tone changed. "This situation is complicated," she said. "My daughter's life will be destroyed if this continues," he tried to explain. He said he loved her daughter, that he loved the children. That family mattered more than status. Her mother listened, but did not hear. When the envelope appeared, he felt small, not because of the money, but because of what it meant. She believed he could be erased. After he refused the offer, the pressure began. His supervisor called him into the office and said business was slow. His hours were cut in half. No explanation. No warning. A letter arrived from his landlord. The building was being sold. He had 30 days to leave. The hospital called about unpaid bills. Insurance coverage changed. Fees increased. Every problem arrived at once. He tried to fight. He called offices. He asked questions. No one helped. He reached out to the woman he loved. His messages stayed unread. His calls went unanswered. He didn't know that her mother had already taken control. Late one night, the babies wouldn't stop crying. He had no formula left. The store was closed. His bank card declined again. He sat on the kitchen floor and held the envelope. $100,000. It felt heavy, dirty, powerful. He cried for the first time in years, not for himself, for his children. He took the money. The next morning, he packed what little he had. He left without saying goodbye, not because he wanted to disappear, but because survival demanded it. Years passed quietly. He didn't live large. He lived carefully. He studied finances late at night. He learned skills online. He invested slowly, lost money, gained it back, lost again. He never gave up. Every decision was for the children. They grew curious and confident. They laughed easily. They trusted him completely. He taught them honesty, patience, strength without anger. He never spoke badly about the past. He never mentioned the woman they had lost. But sometimes, late at night, he stood by the window and wondered if she still hated him. Then one evening, everything shifted. He saw her name online by accident. A wedding announcement, a date, a location. His chest tightened. He read further and realized something else. The truth. He understood now how carefully everything had been controlled. How the silence had been manufactured. For the first time, anger surfaced. Not wild anger, clear anger. He didn't want revenge. He wanted the truth to stand where lies had lived. He booked the yacht and decided to return. The money changed everything, but not in the way people imagine. At first, he didn't touch most of it. He was afraid that if he spent too fast, it would disappear the same way it came into his life. He rented a small place in a quiet town where no one knew him, no questions, no past. The triplets were still young enough to adapt easily. They learned new rooms, new parks, new routines. To them, home was wherever their father was. He made mistakes early on. He trusted the wrong people, invested in things he didn't fully understand, lost money that took months to earn back. There were nights when he sat alone at the table, staring at numbers, wondering if he had already failed his children. But quitting was never an option. He learned slowly, carefully, patiently. Every night, after the children slept, he studied. He read. He listened. He asked questions he had been too proud to ask before. He accepted small jobs that paid little but taught him more. The money was not magic, discipline was. As the years passed, something changed inside him. He stopped feeling ashamed. He realized he had not abandoned his family. He had been pushed out. He had survived, and survival was not weakness. The triplets grew into curious, observant children. They noticed everything. They noticed when their father worked late, when he looked tired, when he smiled only after checking on them first. They never asked why they didn't have a mother. He told them only what they needed to know. That part of life was complicated, he said gently. But you were always wanted. That was enough. Far away, the woman he once loved lived with a different story. She believed he had chosen money and vanished. That belief shaped her life. It hardened her heart in quiet ways. She stopped trusting easily. She buried her questions under responsibility and family pressure. Her mother told her the truth often enough that it became fact. He was never serious. He didn't want the burden. He took the money and ran. Over time, the pain dulled. She moved on. Back in his world, success didn't arrive suddenly. It came in pieces. A small investment worked. A business decision paid off. A partnership stayed honest. Slowly, stability became security. Security became growth. He didn't celebrate loudly. He didn't change who he was. He bought books for his children instead of toys. Paid for experiences instead of luxury. He taught them how money worked and how it didn't define them. One evening, after a long day, the children asked him a question he had been dreading. "Why don't we have grandparents?" one of them asked softly. He paused. "Some people choose distance," he said carefully. "Not because of you, but because of their own fears." They nodded, accepting it without judgment. Children often understand more than adults. Years later, the success became undeniable. He no longer worried about bills. He no longer checked his account daily. He had options, choices, but peace was still missing. That changed the day he saw her name again. The wedding announcement stared back at him from the screen. His hands tightened. At first, he planned to ignore it. He told himself it was too late, that reopening the past would only cause pain. Then he noticed the date, the location, and something else. The family name. Suddenly, everything connected. He saw the pattern clearly now, the control, the silence, the pressure. It was never about love. It was about power. That night, he didn't sleep, not because of regret, because of clarity. The next morning, he told the children they were taking a trip. They were excited instantly. They packed quickly, asked questions, laughed. He didn't tell them where they were going yet. He contacted a company quietly, made arrangements without drama. He didn't choose the yacht to impress anyone. He chose it because it would speak without words. It would say, "I survived." As the departure day came closer, doubts crept in. Was he doing this for the right reason? Would the truth help or only hurt? He asked himself one question again and again. If I stay silent, will the lie live forever? He already knew the answer. He wasn't returning to reclaim love. He was returning to reclaim truth. The yacht moved smoothly across the water as the shoreline appeared in the distance. The triplet stood beside him, holding the railing, eyes bright with curiosity. He took a deep breath. Whatever happened next, he was ready. The yacht appeared on the horizon just after noon. At first, no one paid attention. Boats came and went all the time near the marina. But this one was different. Bigger, slower, confident. People began to stare. As it moved closer, phones came out. Staff whispered to each other. The wedding planners looked confused. This was not on the schedule. On the deck stood a man with 3 children beside him. He didn't wave, he didn't smile. He stood still, watching the dock with calm focus. The children, however, were full of excitement. One pointed at the water. Another laughed as the wind pushed her hair back. The boy held his small captain's hat tightly, proud and curious. When the yacht finally stopped, silence fell again. The bride turned slowly. At first, she didn't recognize him. Then she saw his eyes, her breath caught. Her knees felt weak. The world around her faded as memory rushed back, his voice, his kindness, the night he disappeared without explanation. Her heart pounded. Behind her, her mother knew instantly. Her fingers tightened around her purse. Her mouth went dry. She had imagined many futures, but this was never one of them. He was not supposed to come back. He stepped onto the dock carefully, holding one child's hand while the other 2 followed close behind. Every step felt heavy but steady. He could feel eyes on him from every direction. Curiosity, judgment, confusion. He ignored it all. His focus stayed on the woman in white. She looked smaller than he remembered, older, sadder. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The years between them felt louder than words. I didn't expect this, she finally said, her voice trembling. I know, he replied gently. The children looked up at her with open curiosity. Are you the lady from Daddy's stories? One of them asked innocently. The question landed like a stone. Her eyes filled with tears. The guests whispered louder now. Some recognized the children's faces. Others noticed the resemblance between the man and the bride. Questions spread quickly. Her mother stepped forward. You shouldn't be here, she said firmly, trying to regain control. He turned to face her. I'm not here to cause a scene, he said calmly. I'm here because lies don't disappear on their own. Her expression tightened. This is inappropriate, she said. Today is not about you, he nodded. That's true, he said. But 5 years ago, it was. Silence followed. The bride looked between them, confusion growing. What is she talking about? She asked softly. Her mother answered quickly. He left you, she said. You know that. He shook his head slowly. I didn't leave, he said. I was pushed. The words were quiet but heavy. The bride's chest tightened. What do you mean? She asked. He looked at the children, then back at her. I was offered money to disappear, he said. I refused. Then my life began to collapse. Her mother interrupted sharply. That's enough, he continued anyway. My job, my home, my ability to provide. All taken away at once. The truth unfolded without anger, without shouting. Just facts. The bride's hands shook. You told me he chose money, she said, turning to her mother. Her mother avoided her eyes. I protected you, she said. The man spoke again. I took the money because my children were hungry, he said. Not because I wanted to leave. The children stood close to him now, sensing the tension. One of the girls reached for the bride's hand. You look sad, she said gently. That was when the bride broke. Tears fell freely as everything she believed cracked open. Guests shifted uncomfortably. Some stepped away. Others watched in stunned silence. The power had shifted. Money was no longer the loudest voice. Truth was. The mother's control slipped. She could feel it. She had built her world on silence and influence, but neither worked here. Not today. The man took a small step back. "I didn't come to take anything," he said. "I came to return what was taken from me." He turned toward the yacht. The children followed. The bride watched them go, heart racing, mind spinning. Her perfect day had shattered, but something real had replaced it. And she knew this was only the beginning. The marina felt different after he walked away. The music never restarted. Guests spoke in low voices, unsure whether to stay or leave. The celebration that had been planned for months now felt hollow. The bride stood frozen, watching the yacht from a distance. Her dress suddenly felt heavy, like it belonged to someone else. The man she thought had abandoned her was standing a few steps away from disappearing again, this time by choice. Her mother touched her arm. "We need to talk," she said firmly. But the bride pulled away. "No," she replied quietly. "You need to tell me the truth." The words were calm, but they carried weight. They stepped aside, away from the crowd. Her mother tried to speak first, but the bride raised her hand. "Don't explain," she said. "Answer." Her mother hesitated. "Did you pay him to leave?" The question hung in the air. Her mother's silence was enough. The bride felt something inside her break, not loudly, but completely. "All these years," she whispered, "you watched me grieve. You watched me blame myself." Her mother's voice softened. "I did what I thought was best," she said. "He wasn't right for our world." The bride shook her head slowly. "You weren't protecting me," she said. "You were controlling me." Across the dock, the man stood with his children near the yacht railing. He didn't rush. He didn't celebrate. He had said what needed to be said. Now the rest was out of his hands. One of the children tugged at his sleeve. "Are we leaving again?" the boy asked. "Yes," he replied gently. "Soon." The child nodded, satisfied. Children trust easily when they feel safe. The bride watched them. 5 years ago, she had begged for answers. Now they stood right in front of her. She walked toward him slowly. "I didn't know," she said, her voice shaking. "I swear I didn't know." He studied her face. He saw guilt, shock, pain, but no lies. "I believe you," he said. Her shoulders dropped in relief. "I don't expect forgiveness," she said quickly. I needed you to know." He nodded. "Truth doesn't need permission," he said quietly. The groom approached, confused and uneasy. "What's going on?" he asked. The bride turned to him. "I can't do this," she said honestly. "Not today, not like this." The man didn't argue. He saw her face and understood that something deeper had surfaced. "I'll give you space," he said. He walked away. The bride turned back to her mother. "You took my choice away," she said. "And today, I'm taking it back." Her mother stood silent. For the first time, money couldn't fix the damage. As the sun began to lower, the yacht prepared to depart. The man lifted one child into his arms. The others followed close behind. Before stepping aboard, he turned once more. "I didn't come to reopen wounds," he said calmly. "I came to close one." The bride nodded through tears. "Thank you," she whispered. The yacht pulled away slowly. The children waved. The bride waved back. And for the first time in years, the man felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not because the past was fixed, but because the truth was finally free. The yacht disappeared slowly into the distance, leaving the dock quiet and unsettled. The bride remained standing long after it was gone. The wind brushed against her dress, but she barely noticed. Her world had shifted in a single afternoon, and there was no way to step back into who she had been that morning. Behind her, guests quietly left. Some offered gentle words. Others avoided eye contact. No one knew what to say. Her mother stood alone near the edge of the dock. For the first time, she felt small. That evening, the bride went home alone. She removed the wedding dress carefully, folding it instead of throwing it aside. She sat on the bed and stared at the wall, replaying every moment from 5 years ago. Every question she had asked, every answer she had accepted too easily. She realized how deeply she had trusted her mother, and how costly that trust had been. Across the water, the man and his children sat quietly inside the yacht. The children were calm. They always were after emotional moments, as if their young minds knew how to protect themselves. One of the girls leaned against him. "Did we do something bad?" she asked softly. He pulled her close. "No," he said gently. "We did something honest." She smiled and closed her eyes. That was enough for her. Over the next few days the story spread. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly through conversations, questions, and shared truths. People began connecting pieces that never made sense before. The sudden disappearance, the silence, the influence. Some admired the man's restraint. Others criticized the mother's control. But most were struck by one thing. He had come back without anger. The mother tried to regain control. She called lawyers, advisors, friends, but there was nothing to fix, no contracts broken, no crimes committed, only truth revealed. Her influence remained, but it felt hollow now. The silence she once used as a weapon had turned against her. The bride requested space. She declined interviews. She canceled meetings. She stopped answering calls. For the first time in her life, she listened to her own thoughts without someone guiding them. She thought about the man she loved years ago. His patience, his honesty, his quiet strength. She thought about the children she had never known existed, triplets. She cried not from regret alone, but from the weight of what could never be reclaimed. The man returned home with his children. Life resumed quietly, school, work, routine, but something inside him had shifted too. He no longer carried the unanswered questions, the unspoken truth. He slept better, laughed more easily. He knew he had done the right thing, not because it changed others, but because it freed him. Weeks later, a letter arrived. No return address. He opened it slowly. Inside was a single page, written carefully. It was from the bride. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She didn't ask for anything at all. She thanked him for telling the truth, for protecting the children, for surviving without bitterness. She wrote that she was choosing a different path now, one built on honesty, even if it was painful. He read the letter once, then twice. Then he folded it and placed it in a drawer, not as hope, as closure. The children noticed the change in him. "You smile more now," one of them said one morning. He nodded. "I feel lighter," he replied. They didn't ask why. They didn't need to. Far away, the mother sat in a quiet house filled with expensive furniture and no warmth. For years she had believed control was protection. Now she faced the cost of that belief. No one yelled at her, no one punished her. But distance grew around her, slow and permanent. The truth had settled. And with it came consequences no amount of money could erase. Time did not rush to fix anything. Days turned into weeks, and life slowly found a new rhythm for everyone involved. The noise faded, but the truth stayed. For the bride, silence became a teacher. She spent long mornings alone, walking through rooms that once felt full of certainty. Every object now carried a question. Every memory felt unfinished. She stopped blaming others and stopped protecting herself from pain. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel everything. She thought about the man she once loved, not as a mistake, but as a truth interrupted. She remembered how safe she felt around him, how calm, how real. She also thought about her mother, not with anger, with clarity. The conversation finally happened on a quiet afternoon. They sat across from each other at a small table. No advisors, no interruptions. "I need to understand," the bride said. "Not excuses, understanding." Her mother's posture was rigid. "I did what I believed was necessary," she said. The bride nodded. "That belief cost people their lives," she replied softly. "Not physically, but emotionally." Her mother looked away. For years I trusted you to protect me, the bride continued. But protection without consent is control. The words landed deeply. For the first time, her mother did not argue. Across town, the man focused on his children. School drop-offs, homework, dinner conversations. Simple things. He didn't check the news anymore. He didn't replay the marina scene. That chapter had ended. But one night, after the children slept, he allowed himself to reflect. He thought about how close he had come to breaking years ago. How easily his story could have ended differently. He realized something important. Survival had changed him, but it hadn't hardened him. And that mattered. The children noticed small changes too. They felt calmer, safer, as if something invisible had settled. One evening, one of the girls asked a quiet question. "Are we going to see her again?" He paused. "I don't know," he said honestly. "But whatever happens, we'll face it together," she smiled. That was all she needed. The bride made a decision, not dramatic, not rushed. She canceled plans that no longer fit her truth. She stepped back from expectations placed on her since childhood. She didn't announce it. She simply changed direction. She moved into a smaller space, started volunteering, listened more than she spoke. People noticed, but she didn't explain. Some things didn't need justification. Her mother watched the distance grow. Calls unanswered, visits declined, influence fading. For the first time, she understood loss without replacement. Money couldn't rebuild trust. Control couldn't restore love. She was left with reflection and regret. One afternoon, the man received another letter. This one was shorter. It thanked him again not for the past, but for how he handled the truth, for protecting the children from bitterness. She wrote that she was learning who she was without control shaping her choices. She wished him peace. Nothing more, nothing less. He read it slowly, then placed it beside the first letter. That evening, he took the children outside. They watched the sky change colors as the sun set. One of them leaned against him. "Daddy," the boy said, "are we happy?" He smiled. "Yes," he answered honestly. "We are." The word felt solid, true. The story did not end with reunion. It ended with growth, with boundaries, with quiet strength. Everyone moved forward, not healed completely, but aware. And awareness changed everything. Accountability did not arrive with noise. It arrived slowly, through distance. The bride's life continued, but nothing felt the same. She had removed herself from the world that once defined her. The comfort was still there, but the certainty was gone. She began therapy quietly, not because someone told her to, but because she needed clarity. She spoke about control, about love, about the difference between safety and ownership. Each session peeled away something she had accepted as normal. She learned that silence can be violence, and that truth, even when late, still matters. Her mother watched from afar. She tried once to reach out, but the call went unanswered. She tried again weeks later, only to receive a brief message asking for space. Space was something she had never respected before. Now she had no choice. She sat alone in rooms filled with art, furniture, and silence. For the first time, no one needed her approval. No one feared her disappointment. She thought about the man, not with anger, with realization. She had underestimated him, not because of money, but because of strength. And that mistake had cost her everything that mattered. The man's life remained steady. Work continued. The children thrived. He stayed present, grounded, intentional. He did not speak about the past unless asked. One afternoon, the children brought home a school project about family. They sat at the table together, cutting pictures and writing words. "Who do we put?" one of the girls asked. He smiled gently. "Anyone who loves you," he said. They drew him first, then each other. Nothing else was needed. Weeks later, something unexpected happened. The bride requested a meeting, not public, not emotional, just honest. He thought about it carefully before responding. He didn't rush. He didn't avoid it either. He agreed. They met in a quiet cafe far from attention. No lawyers, no pressure. Just two people sitting across from a shared past. "I won't take much of your time," she said softly. "You already have it," he replied. She took a breath. "I don't want anything," she said. "No future. No answers you've already given." He listened. "I only wanted to say this in person," she continued. "What happened wasn't your fault. And I'm sorry it took me this long to understand that." He nodded. "I've already made peace with it," he said honestly. She smiled faintly. "I can see that," she replied. They sat quietly for a moment. Then she looked at him again. "You raised them well," she said. "I can tell." His eyes softened. "Thank you," he said. That was all. They parted without promises, without regret, without reopening wounds. Some connections don't return, they resolve. The mother heard about the meeting through others. She didn't interfere. For the first time, she accepted her place, not at the center, but at the edge. She began donating quietly, supporting causes without her name attached. It didn't fix the past, but it softened the future. She learned too late that power without compassion leaves nothing behind. One night, the man stood on his balcony watching the city lights. The children slept peacefully inside. He thought about the long road, from exhaustion to clarity, from silence to truth. He realized something important. He didn't come back on a yacht to prove success. He came back to end a lie. And he had done that. The story no longer belonged to pain. It belonged to growth, to accountability, to people choosing better, even when it hurt. The future did not arrive all at once. It came quietly, through ordinary days. The man's life settled into a rhythm that felt honest. Mornings were filled with school bags, small arguments over shoes, and laughter at the breakfast table. Evenings were slower homework, shared meals, and stories before bed. Nothing about it looked impressive from the outside. But everything about it felt right. He no longer woke up with weight on his chest. The past no longer followed him into sleep. The truth had done what years of silence never could. It had set him free. The children grew stronger in small ways. They spoke with confidence, asked thoughtful questions, trusted easily because they had never been taught fear. One afternoon, as they walked together through a park, one of the girls asked a simple question. "Daddy, why did we go on the big boat that day?" He thought for a moment. "So people could see us," he said gently. "Not to impress them, but to tell the truth." She nodded, satisfied. Children understand more than adults expect when truth is spoken calmly. The bride continued rebuilding her life. Not publicly, not dramatically. She chose work that mattered to her. She surrounded herself with people who asked questions instead of giving orders. She learned to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. Sometimes she thought about the children, not with longing, with gratitude. She knew now that some love exists to teach, not to stay. Her mother's world became quieter. Not empty, but honest. She no longer led conversations, she listened. She accepted distance where she once demanded closeness. In quiet moments, she replayed her choices. Not to punish herself, but to understand them. She had believed control was protection. Now she knew better. Months later, the man received one final message. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't heavy. It simply said, "I hope life continues to be kind to you and the children." He read it once, then he smiled. That chapter was truly over. One evening, the children asked to see the water again. They didn't ask for the yacht, just the shore. They sat together as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in soft colors. The sound of waves filled the silence. The boy leaned against him. "Are we okay now?" he asked quietly. The man wrapped an arm around all three of them. "Yes," he said without hesitation. "We are more than okay." He thought about the journey, how easily his life could have broken, how close he came to disappearing, not just physically, but completely. What saved him wasn't money, it wasn't luck, it was choice. The choice to stay gentle, The choice to protect his children without becoming bitter. The choice to return, not to take revenge, but to restore truth. The yacht had been a symbol, but the real victory was invisible. It lived in peaceful mornings, in children who felt safe, in a man who no longer needed to prove his worth. As night settled in, they stood together and watched the lights reflect on the water. The past no longer called to him. The future no longer frightened him. He had everything he needed right beside him. The story did not end with reunion. It ended with dignity, with accountability, with people choosing honesty over control, and with one man, once paid to disappear, standing fully present, unbreakable, peaceful, and whole.